Remember when you were excited for Captain America Brave New World? Or are you a normal person with a functioning prefrontal cortex? It was just revealed that Cap 4, the surefire quadruple billion-dollar hit, is going back for another round of reshoots. And damn it, the modernization of these Marvel movies has to stop.
Don't return my calls.
I've been mewing.
Trying to look like a Giga Chad? Why still no bitches these days?
Disney's equivalent to the Batwoman problem is actually going to hit theaters this February. Maybe. After multiple delays and an absurd amount of reshoots that equate to making the movie twice, it's hard to believe this movie will finally come out. And according to actor Tim Blake Nelson, the movie has actually been filmed twice. There are reports they're reshooting scenes for this movie with a new director as we speak, just a few months before its release. If so, it's in great company. Some other recent notables that had to be reshot again and again right up to release date were bangers like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and Morbius. Yes, indeed, the super modern version of one of the oldest superheroes in America has changed his costume, name, and skin tone with intent on celebrating cinema modernity. And it's an absolute clusterfuck. It's so strange that a Captain America movie without Captain America is going to bomb. Just as Disney and Marvel had the first Band-Aid put on their cinematic universe with Deadpool and Wolverine, an apology to fans for the last couple of years of crap they've shoveled on our driveway, the movie they can't escape arrives with a whopping budget of nearly $500 million. $500 million for Blacked in America Brave New World. How did a movie no one wanted end up costing so much it makes Joss Whedon's Justice League look cheap in comparison? I mean, it looked cheap regardless. Shit, cost a lot of money is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, the latest not Captain America movie is priced at nearly $500 million because they just can't stop filming this fucking thing. Who knows, maybe everyone's having a great time and just don't want to stop. We'll probably never know all the details, but Disney's like an old pirate ship and news just kind of leaks out. The movie's been reshot because of poor test screenings, which means it comes down to this. The writing is shit. The original script for Brave New World had a very typical twist about it. Modernize the fuck out of Captain America. The easiest way to do that is to stick a man of a different race inside the suit and have him face whatever oppression issues are trendy to talk about in society at the moment. Their decision was to write what it's like to be a black superhero, which in the right hands might be interesting for someone like the Falcon, since the Falcon's already played by Anthony Mackie and is, black. But what people care about most is a good story, and the test screening suggests the crowd went mild. We've got a lot to get into, but before we do, a quick word about the sponsor of this video. You know the drill. Things are always timestamped here on this channel for your convenience, but if you do watch the sponsor spot, I fucking love you. Today's video is sponsored by Factor. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals directly to your doorstep. Their team of gourmet chefs create each meal using only ingredients with integrity to help you feel your best all day long. Factor offers flavor-packed options on the menu each week for a variety of lifestyles, from keto and calorie smart to veggie and protein plus. Prepared by chefs and approved by dietitians, each meal has all of the ingredients you need to feel satisfied while meeting your goals. It's perfect for someone like me, someone who just can't find the time to cook. Or I just don't want to, honestly. But I still want to eat well, and I get bored eating the same meal over and over just because it's quick. Factor makes it easy to eat fast and eat fresh every meal. They heat in just 2 minutes and then savor the good stuff. Just completely take out all that guesswork. Factor has so many meal options that whatever your goals are, they offer something that accommodates your needs, with over 35 meals and 30 plus add-on options that are updated weekly. I also use HelloFresh, the company that owns Factor, and I switch back and forth. Honestly, you can't go wrong. Head to my link in the description to get 50% off and free shipping on your first Factor box, and 20% off your next month's order with the code MOVIE50. Thanks to Factor for sponsoring this video, and now back to it. The timeline of this movie's production is an absolute clown show. The television program Falcon and the Winter Soldier wrapped up on Disney Plus in 2021. You remember that piece of shit, right?
You've got to do better, Senator. You've got to step up.
After that trash can, Anthony Mackie was officially signed on to play Sam Wilson again, and once more disguised as Captain America, this time in a movie. Julius Ona was hired to direct the film in July 2022, and the film was given the iffy, cringy title New World Order, a fitting reminder of Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
The New World Order of Wrestling, brother!
Then they hired the guy who will do anything if enough money's attached. Yes, Helena Shaw's punching bag, Harrison Ford.
Me too.
Filming finally began in March 2023, wrapping up in June just before the writer's strike. By the time filming had finished, they realized how horrible New World Order sounded for a Captain America movie and changed it to Brave New World, a much more apropos title people called Some Very Overdue Representation. And by people, I mean media journalists and Twitter engagement farmers. Now that it was filmed, the real fun began. As soon as it was test screened, it was immediately rejected. They played two different versions of the film, and both were soundly put in their respective places. They were both trash. Disney initially said they'd be reshooting a few major scenes, with various dates being thrown around for the start of filming, and as it turns out, they were really filming again. Reshoots began in early 2024 and lasted until fucking August, confirmed by more than one supporting actor that they have essentially reshot the entire film. They've gone so far as to bring in a brand new villain, played by another guy who keeps getting typecast, Giancarlo Esposito. So how did all that turn out? Well, after months upon months of reshooting, rewriting, and trying to salvage this steaming turd, that leads us up to today, where the film is being reshot again, confirmed by multiple sources, including Esposito himself. It seems this latest version of the film has hit the same snag the first version did. It's terrible. Now, filming the same major blockbuster 2 times means it's going to incur a huge cost. So how about 3 times? Generally speaking, these Marvel productions have cost over $200 million a piece, with the exception, oddly, of the Spider-Man movies. And that's most likely because of the collaboration and cost sharing between Disney and Sony. The same movie shot 3 times means one of the biggest budgets the MCU and cinema in general has ever seen, with an estimated $500 million spent trying to salvage this absolute disaster. Like I mentioned in the introduction, the reason behind the reshoots isn't because of bad acting, poor CGI, or terrible lighting, it's because of a horrible story. Press for the movie before the first trailer was released revealed their attempts at creating a spy thriller again like the Russo brothers did with the previous entries. But after the first trailer, it's looking like Winter Soldier light at best. Their original plan didn't work for the test audiences, to put it lightly. They were following in the groundwork laid by Falcon and Winter Soldier, meaning insufferable overt messaging was injected into the movie. Reportedly, the overt messaging was one of the major reasons the first version of the movie got its ass handed to it by its test audience. Sound familiar? So they went back to the drawing board to try and make it more apolitical. They've attempted to rewrite it seemingly on the fly, adding the Serpent Society and bringing in Esposito for some raw, villainous talent. It seems like they've tried to divert away from the messaging, but it's clearly far too late to fix this piece of shit. Disney refused to let it go, though. Clearly they have too much invested in it now to shelve it like they should, but I see absolutely zero benefit to letting this movie hit theaters. Now, the story for this movie got to this level of trash for a few reasons. The first is plain and simple. They're pulling from horrible source material. One of the final scenes in Avengers Endgame was Sam Wilson getting the shield from Steve Rogers, also known as a major mistake. Bucky Barnes was poised to pick up the mantle, and that would have actually made sense. Not that it matters much anymore, but it's actually comic accurate to have Bucky take over as Cap first. He's also an actual super soldier, unlike Sam, who's just a mortal person, and it would start his redemption arc as he pulls away from his Winter Soldier persona. But no, they skipped ahead and got to adapting from one of the most hated eras in Marvel history, the all-new, all-different Marvel era that started in 2015. Captain Falcon here dived into identity politics, much to the chagrin of comic fans everywhere, while the real Cap was sidelined to make way for pseudo-America. That's exactly what they attempted to do with the first cut of this movie, make it entirely about identity politics. They had the balls to do something like this because the film was concocted during a much hated and maligned era of filmmaking, the current one. After Avengers Endgame, Disney thought people would see anything with the Marvel logo on it, so they didn't mind turning away their superhero brand and making it about behind-the-scenes agendas. From the Eternals, Doctor Strange 2, Thor 4, The Marvels, She-Hulk. I left some titles off, but take your pick. These things were absolute shit, and for the same reason Captain America 4 was said to be a garbage patch. This kind of story is where all of the MCU was headed, but abysmal box office returns made Disney put a pause on Marvel in 2024, with its sole release being the only well-received superhero movie this year, Deadpool and Wolverine. With the retooling of the next Avengers movies and Fantastic Four coming up, Disney's trying to make up for the last few years of horror, but a couple of these films still linger in the pipeline. Cap 4 is one of them. They're trying desperately to get to the Avengers movies, and that Robert Downey Jr. stunt casting they went with, but they have to get through the shit mountain they've created for themselves first. That's what's so surprising about the decision to carry on with this movie as well as the upcoming Thunderbolts. It would behoove them to cancel both of these, let the next movie be Fantastic Four, and ride the money train into Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. But apparently, a tax write-off isn't as appealing as Captain America 4 getting humiliated at the box office. No, that's the preference. Their last film, Deadpool and Wolverine, would be the biggest movie of the year if not for Inside Out 2. It functioned as a perfect palate cleanser for Phase 4 and 5. Certainly no MCU savior, but definitely a sign of what they want to do to save their IP. Unfortunately for Disney, investing in Cap 4 might undo any and all goodwill that movie might have created towards the MCU. Audiences were pretty lenient on Marvel for a couple years before the drastic fall off of the Marvels. It's why Disney cleared the deck and only kept Deadpool 3 on the schedule for this year. So what's the point of all that when your follow-up films are fucking Captain America 4 and Thunderduds? Yes, let's lose money. I mean, Disney certainly isn't any stranger to spending it. They're paying $100 million to Robert Downey Jr. to return to the MCU, and maybe they're banking on the Avengers movies being so successful that they make up for whatever loss Captain America 4 has in store for them. Two terrible looking movies coming out before any semblance of an MCU event film. Fucking yikes. I said earlier this year that even if Deadpool 3 was successful, it wasn't going to save the MCU. I still feel that's true. It showed Disney the light as far as how to make money in the short term, but they have to limp to the finish line to get there. Apparently, nostalgia is the answer to the MCU's problems for now, at least as far as Disney is concerned. The RDJ stunt casting, the Chris Evans cameo, bringing back actors and versions of characters from previous generations of superhero films to get you to press the, "Oh hey, I remember those guys" button. It's kind of like The Force Awakens all over again. Sure, there might not be a super solid story here, but you remember Han Solo, right? Remember the X-Wings?
I remember.
It's wild seeing Sam Wilson as Captain America in general because you know there's no way they'll be keeping him as the character for long. Whether it's a complete universe reset or they just reboot the IP in general, there's no way we don't see Steve Rogers return as Captain America again in the next half decade. It'll most likely be in the Secret Wars movie too. Because who wants to see Captain Falcon team up with Spider-Man? Would you rather see the real Captain America team up with him? Yeah. We recently discussed this movie on the best stream in the universe, probably, before it was announced they'd have to refilm parts of the movie for a third time. Here's some of our conversation from episode 46 with Little Platoon, Film Comics Explained, and The Critical Drinker, discussing the excitement, or lack thereof, for Captain America 4 and all things MCU.
I can't emphasize how much I don't care about this. I don't think I've even looked at the trailers really.
Do we know anything about the story for this movie? I mean, has it even finished reshoots at this point? I mean, I'm assuming it must have done if it's coming out in February, but this was one of those ones that had troubled production, didn't it? And I don't know if we know anything about the story, where this is supposed to be going, what's it set, is it drawing on a comic at all?
I don't know because I started reading this era of comics in 2015 and it was really bad.
And they've sort of ruined the surprise with Red Hulk because in the trailer you see Harrison Ford transform. So I don't know why they did that.
I like there's a comment here from Hikira who says they just didn't want to hire Mark Ruffalo again. I mean, who could blame them, really?
Has Mark Ruffalo even been seen since the election? I kind of assumed that he just exploded with rage at this point.
Yeah, I think so. Like him and Mark Hamill, we need to get people to check on them daily, I think.
Casting my mind back to the distant past of last year, is this a similar-ish release window to Ant-Man 3? Was that another February release?
Yeah.
Is that common for supposedly big-ticket Marvel movies? Do they often release at this time of year, or is that a relatively recent thing? I assumed that it was sort of the tail end of a phase period where people weren't necessarily expected to go and watch.
Marvel movies typically kick off the year in May.
Well,
May
they've been doing this
the summer movie season.
They've been doing this since at least Black Panther that came out in 2019, and it was in February.
Yeah. Is that because February is like Black History Month or something?
Because isn't January usually and the start of February the month where production companies will dump their
January,
films
February
that they don't think are going to do well.
Yeah, so January and February and August, September are all dump months. So generally speaking, things that come out then are not expected to do well.
I'm ready for either some massive conflagration where lots of people die and everything gets reset, or I'm ready for it all to end. Which would be better? Are we collectively all ready for this just to stop, or is there still any hope that this will salvage it?
I've been ready for this to stop for about 4 years now.
Yeah.
And it's funny now because I've enjoyed this little holiday that we've had from MCU movies. You know, you used to have to slog through 3 of them per year, plus God knows how many TV shows. And we've had a little break. And the only one we got was Deadpool and Wolverine. And, that was fun for what it was. I had a lot of enjoyment just watching that and just goofing around. And the thought of getting back into it now, it's like going back to work after being on vacation or something. It's like you have to try and summon up some kind of energy to get back into it again, but you're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, they have to, in the script, deal with the fact that an audience is coming in where they have to be like, yeah, we know, you have to know all this stuff so we can get through these movies. But we promise once we get through them, it'll be a clean slate. Like that's what they have to try and communicate.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder now, but because it's been a couple of years, and I feel like the general fan base now for this is so fucking casual that they run the risk that a lot of people will just straight up forgotten what the state of the MCU is, like what the state of the universe is, what's going on, and it's like you're going to have to almost like reacquaint people with this universe that you've created because they've just moved on and they've forgotten about it and they don't care anymore.
I feel like this is their excuse to have like a nostalgia Avengers, like the kind of Avengers team up we wanted 12 years ago, like Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man versus Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom. But after that, I think they'll have a recast Iron Man and Captain America, and they'll kind of go back to the well, and like Phase 7 will be a whole new MCU, but all of the Avengers you like will be there.
They're really lucky that they skipped over about 30 years of good storylines that they can go back to. That's the most
yeah, they did.
This is what I've heard about, like the later phases where they skipped all the good stuff and like ported it forward to like the stuff from the 2010s, which was just universally panned.
Not too much has changed despite the release of Deadpool and Wolverine. Because of Disney's own incompetence, the MCU is still very much in trouble. Captain America 4's woes are just another blip on the cringe radar of Marvel, but it might be the most fascinating disaster yet. GG's.
My disappointment is immeasurable.